Liam Darrow stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, tugging the brim of a plain blue baseball cap lower over his eyes. His sharp jawline and tailored suits were gone today, replaced with a simple navy polo shirt bearing the Darrow Mart logo, khakis, and a name tag that read, Mark. Just Mark. At 42, Liam had built Darrow Mart from a single-corner grocery store into a nationwide retail giant. He was a self-made man with everything, except peace of mind. Lately, store reports were showing drops in morale, efficiency, and customer satisfaction, especially at store number 47. His board had recommended consultants. He chose a disguise instead. Liam had learned long ago that spreadsheets only told half the story. If he wanted the truth, he needed to hear it whispered between employees on break, or hidden in the eyes of an overworked cashier. That's why today, instead of his penthouse office, he stood behind the employee entrance of a store in a rundown part of the city, heart pounding like a rookie on his first shift. He clocked in at exactly 8 a.m., exchanging nods with the shift manager, Carla, who barely looked up from her clipboard. "You're the new floor guy. Mark, right?" "That's me," Liam replied, adjusting his name tag. "All right. Stock aisle 4 and help out at checkout if things get busy. Stay out of trouble," she added with a flat tone. She didn't care who he was, just wanted her shift to go smoothly. That was perfect. The store smelled like old linoleum and microwaved burritos. Shelves were half-stocked, and a few fluorescent lights flickered like they couldn't decide whether to stay on or die. Liam walked the aisles slowly, soaking in every detail, not just the operations, but the people. Most employees moved like they were trying to disappear, heads down, smiles forced. That's when he first noticed her, Eva. A young cashier with tired eyes and the kind of politeness that felt practiced. She greeted customers, scanned items, smiled through complaints, and never looked anyone in the eye for more than a second. Something about her seemed dimmed. Like a light trying to stay on in the wind. Liam didn't know her story yet, but instinct told him this girl wasn't just tired, she was barely holding on. And he hadn't come here just to fix sales numbers. He'd come here to find the soul of his company. And maybe, just maybe, save it. Over the next few days, Liam quietly blended into the rhythm of store number 47. He unpacked boxes, faced shelves, restocked dairy, and shadowed register operations. He worked like any other floor associate, no special treatment, no one suspecting he was the man who signed their paychecks. But no matter where he was stationed, Liam's eyes always returned to the same person. Eva. She moved like someone who had memorized the dance of the job, but had long since stopped feeling the music. Every customer got a soft, automatic, good morning, even when they didn't respond. Her scanning was quick, her drawer always balanced, and she never once complained, not when someone cursed her out over expired coupons, not when she had to mop up a broken pickle jar alone. It was her silence that struck Liam the most. She didn't chat with coworkers. She ate lunch alone, always in the same back corner of the break room. She never took her eyes off the ground for long. There was a stillness to her, like someone carrying something far heavier than groceries. One afternoon, while stocking cereal on aisle 5, Liam casually asked Carla, the shift manager, "Hey, that girl on register 3. Eva, right? She's new." Carla shrugged. "Yeah, maybe 2 weeks. Shows up on time, doesn't talk much. Keeps her head down. She seems quiet," Liam said, choosing his words carefully. Carla looked up briefly from her clipboard. "Some of these kids, they come in with stories. Life stuff. I don't pry. Long as they don't cause trouble, I let them be." Liam nodded, but something didn't sit right with him. He believed in running a company that treated its employees like people, not cogs. But somewhere along the line, that culture had slipped through the cracks. Eva was clearly struggling, and no one even noticed. Later that day, Liam caught a brief moment where Eva stepped away from her register. She was refilling receipt paper, and for the first time, their eyes met. "Hey," Liam offered casually. "Everything okay?" She blinked, startled by the kindness. "Oh, yes. Thank you." But her voice was soft. Too soft. And her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. He wanted to ask more, but the moment passed, and she quickly returned to her station, hiding behind the safe routine of beep beep bag repeat. Still, that short exchange stayed with him. She reminded him of someone. Not a former employee. Not a friend. Himself. Years ago, before the business, before the success, when he, too, had been a quiet kid with tired eyes, holding pain no one bothered to see. Something was going on behind Eva's quiet demeanor. And he intended to find out what. It was just after 2 p.m. when the store quieted slightly, the lunch rush easing into a lull. Liam stepped into the back to grab a bottled water, hoping to catch his breath before his next stock rotation. The hum of the soda machine filled the hallway leading to the break room, until a sound stopped him in his tracks. Crying. Soft. Choked. Barely audible, but unmistakable. Liam hesitated at the break room door, unsure if he should interrupt. Then he heard a stifled sob, like someone trying, and failing, to stay invisible. He slowly pushed the door open. Eva sat alone at the far end of the break table, her head buried in her arms, shoulders trembling. Her Daromart apron was folded beside her, and next to it, an empty lunchbox with a dent in the corner, as if it had been dropped, or thrown. Liam's heart sank. He stepped in quietly. "Eva." She jerked upright, eyes wide, face streaked with tears. Her lip trembled as she tried to force a smile. "Sorry. I'll be back at my register in a minute." He held up a hand. "You don't need to rush. I'm on break too." She wiped her face quickly with the sleeve of her cardigan, clearly embarrassed. "I just needed a moment." Liam hesitated, then walked slowly to the other side of the table and sat down, leaving space between them. His voice softened. "You don't have to tell me what's wrong. But, sometimes, talking helps." Eva looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. There was something in his eyes, not pity, but understanding. And that cracked something open. "My mom's sick," she said, barely above a whisper. "Stage 3 breast cancer. She doesn't have insurance, and we lost everything trying to pay for chemo. I've been working double shifts just to keep up with her meds." Liam leaned forward slightly, his throat tightening. "That's a lot to carry." Eva nodded, swallowing hard. "This morning, I had just enough for her next treatment. I kept the money in my wallet, hidden in my locker. But when I went to check during my break, her voice cracked. It was gone." She looked down, her fingers knotting into her lap. "I reported it, but Carla said unless I saw someone take it, there's nothing they can do. That was everything. Every dollar I had." Liam felt a sharp twist in his chest. This wasn't just theft, it was desperation compounding more desperation. And no one had noticed. No one had cared enough to sit beside her, until now. Eva shook her head. "Sorry. I didn't mean to dump that on you. I know you're just a new guy trying to keep your job." Liam's heart ached. If only she knew. He looked at her gently. "You didn't dump anything. You trusted me. That means something." She gave a faint, watery smile. "It's just hard. I feel like I'm invisible most days. Like I could collapse on the floor and no one would even step around me, they'd just walk over." There it was. Not just exhaustion, but hopelessness. Liam knew, in that moment, that this wasn't just about a missing wallet. It was about a broken system. One he had helped create, without ever seeing what it was doing to the people at the bottom. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small pack of tissues, and slid it across the table. I may not be able to fix everything, he said quietly, but I promise you, Eva. I'm listening. She looked at him again, this time with something more than pain. Hope. Even if just a flicker. The next morning, store number 47 buzzed with confusion. Associates whispered among themselves as a sleek black car pulled into the usually empty VIP parking spot. A sharply dressed man stepped out in a tailored charcoal suit. He carried no clipboard, no grocery bags, just quiet authority. His presence turned heads. Inside, Carla, the shift manager, was flipping through paperwork when she looked up, and froze. "Can I help you, sir?" The man smiled politely. "You may remember me. I was here yesterday. Stocking shelves." Carla blinked. "Wait, Mark. You're the floor temp guy." He took off his cap and tucked it under his arm. "Actually, no. My name is Liam Darrow. I'm the CEO of Darrowmart." Silence. The air shifted like someone had dropped a pin in a church. Associates stood still. A bag boy dropped a jar of jam. Carla turned pale. "I've been visiting stores anonymously," Liam continued, his voice calm but firm. "I wanted to see what my employees experience, without the filter of management or PR. I started with this store. I needed to know why morale was down. Why turnover was high." He paused, scanning the room. "What I found was more than just numbers." Then his eyes settled on Eva. She stood at register 3, her hand frozen mid-scan. Her lips parted slightly, eyes wide in disbelief. Liam walked toward her. Slowly. Respectfully. "Yesterday, I met someone who reminded me of what this company was built on. Dignity. Compassion. Humanity." He reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "Your wallet was found," he said gently, handing it to her. "I made sure of it." Eva looked down at it, confused. She opened it cautiously, and gasped. Not only was her missing ID and folded photo of her mother tucked safely inside, but so was a stack of crisp $100 bills. More than she'd ever held in her life. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked back up at him. I don't understand." "There's $5,000 in there," Liam said. "It should cover your mom's next treatment, and then some." She blinked rapidly, trying to speak, but no words came. "And this," he added, pulling out a second folder, "is a full healthcare voucher. I partnered with our company's medical affiliates this morning. Your mom will have access to ongoing care, no questions asked." Gasps and murmurs spread among the employees. Carla covered her mouth. Eva's lip trembled. "Why would you do this for me?" Liam's expression softened. "Because you matter. Because no one should cry alone in a break room, afraid to ask for help. Because you reminded me of the kind of company I meant to build. And because someone should have helped you long before I did." She reached for his hand. Thank you." He shook his head gently. "Don't thank me. Just promise me something." She nodded tearfully. "When you see someone else breaking, don't look away." She nodded again, this time with conviction. The store was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, someone clapped. Then another. And another. Until the whole room was filled with the sound of applause. Not for the CEO, but for the moment. For the truth. For the shift that had finally begun. That day, store number 47 didn't just feel different. It became different. 2 months later, store number 47 didn't look the same. The flickering lights were fixed. Shelves stayed stocked. The break room had new furniture and a bulletin board filled with handwritten notes of encouragement. The atmosphere no longer felt heavy, it felt hopeful. Staff smiled more, talked more, cared more. And at the center of it all was Eva. She stood behind the service counter now, not in a cashier's uniform, but a neatly pressed assistant manager's shirt with her name embroidered in bold navy letters. Her long hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and for the first time, her eyes were clear. Confident. Alive. She'd stepped into her new role with quiet strength, organizing schedules, mentoring new hires, and making sure no one ever spent their lunch break crying alone. She was the first one in and the last one to leave, not out of necessity, but out of pride. And Liam visited more often now. Not unannounced. Not undercover. Just Liam. The man who believed that leadership was earned in quiet acts, not loud speeches. On this particular afternoon, he walked into the store and smiled as he watched Eva help a nervous teenage employee bag groceries. She patted the girl on the shoulder and whispered, "You've got this," before turning to greet Liam. "You look like you run the place," he teased. Still figuring it out, Eva replied with a small smile. "But I'm getting there." They sat in the break room, the same one where she had once sobbed into her arms, but now it was filled with sunlight and laughter from nearby staff. "How's your mom?" Liam asked. Eva's smile widened. "She's doing better. The treatments are working. The hospital even helped us set up a payment plan. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're not drowning anymore." He nodded, a quiet warmth in his chest. "She's proud of you," he said. Eva looked down, eyes shimmering. "She says. I remind her of my dad. He passed a few years ago, but he used to say, sometimes, the people who look the smallest carry the biggest weights." She paused. "You helped me put that weight down." Liam shook his head. "You carried it long before I stepped in. I just reminded you how strong you already were." There was a silence. Not awkward, just full. Finally, Eva turned to him and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you come here? You're the CEO. You could have stayed in your fancy office, looked at reports, blamed the numbers." He leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "Because a long time ago, I was like you. A kid no one saw. I worked at a gas station to feed my brother. I remember what it felt like to be invisible. I promised myself, if I ever made it, I'd never forget." Eva smiled softly, then asked, "So, what now?" Liam looked around the room. "Now. You lead. You notice people. You keep this store full of heart. Because people follow kindness. Not titles." As he stood to leave, a young boy from the bakery walked in and waved at Eva. "Hey, boss." She grinned. "Hey, Dylan." Liam watched her for a moment more, no longer a quiet cashier with trembling shoulders, but a woman standing tall with purpose. As he walked out into the bright afternoon, Liam knew he hadn't just found a good employee. He'd found the reason he started this company in the first place. And Eva? She had found her voice. All because one day, someone had listened when no one else did.